leaders. Welcome to CTRL+ALT+DELETE with Lisa Duerre live. I'm Lisa Duerre, your guide through the ever-evolving landscape of leadership and tech. We're breaking down barriers and bringing our community together in real time. So whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your office chair or catching the replay later, please know that your voice matters. Speaking of voices, that's what firm leadership is all about. Listening, inviting wisdom, and embracing the collective intelligence of our teams. Because let's face it, no one leader has all the answers. And that's where you come in. As we dive into today's discussion, please be an active participant. Drop your thoughts, questions, and insights into the comments below. This isn't just my podcast, it's ours. Together, we're rebooting Leadership Drive. And before we kick things off, I'd like to mention that this podcast and live stream experience is brought to you by RLD Group. As your host and the CEO of RLD Group, I'm grateful for the opportunity to collaborate and bring in this podcast to life. Together, we're committed to empowering organizations, teams, and leaders like you, and your engagement in this conversation is invaluable. So without further ado, let's jump into the conversation, get comfy, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's make some magic happen. Welcome everyone. CTRL+ALT+DELETE with Lisa Duerre live. I am Lisa Duerre, your host, and I am so happy you're here. Wherever you are, whatever platform we're live streaming on, please be sure to join this conversation because it's needed. And I'm going to read a couple of notes here to tell you what we're talking about today and why, because I don't want to miss one of these statistics. So first of all, today we're diving into an important topic that every leader in tech and HR and beyond is facing: change fatigue. Raise your hand if you've got some change fatigue going on at work and in your own life. I think that is a very common thing happening right now. And let me give you some statistics. So they show us the stark reality. Leaders are facing 56% more disruptive change compared to individual contributors. And with the support of organizational change plummeting to 38%, it's clear that something needs to shift. But what if mastering flexibility could be the key to leading through this fatigue? One of the things that that RLD Group really focuses on working with our HR clients and our organizational clients is what we call firm leadership. And that stands for flexible, intuitive, resilient, and mindful. And today's double click is going to be on flexibility. And that is where we believe we can help you within 30 minutes figure out your next right step when it comes to change fatigue and how you can communicate, support your organization and yourself. So the incredible Cheri Honeycutt is here with me today. She helps executive women design intentional lives, careers, and businesses. We're going to explore and how to strengthen the F in firm, flexibility, and how it's essential for navigating setbacks and change fatigue effectively. The thing I want to say about Cheri Honeycutt is she's been on the show before. She has been highly regarded by our listeners. And as someone who has not only been a coach, but a colleague and a co-creator, collaborator to me, I can't think of someone better than to talk about flexibility with me today. So Cheri Honeycutt, come on up to the stage. There
Hey
she is,
there.
everybody. Cheri Honeycutt's
Hello.
here. Hey,
So glad to be here. It's an honor.
I really, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. And I want to say too that, designing your life on purpose goes so beyond life, right? There's so much underneath that, whether it's work, relationships, health, all the things.
All the
And to
things.
design your life on purpose requires you to master flexibility. So it's like the perfect marriage for our conversation today.
I know it's going to be so good. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you so much. So anything
Mhm.
you want to say about where you're coming from when we talk about flexibility, or why this topic is important to you? Like, what do you want to present as we jump into these daunting statistics and share some
Uh,
insights for our listeners?
yes. Well, I've been thinking as we were preparing to come to today's call of the opposite of firm, which is Bonnie, which I'm sure
Hmm.
you've talked about before on your
Yep.
podcast. And the B in Bonnie stands for brittle. So we're really comparing and contrasting brittle and firm. I mean, and flexible and flexibility. And in real time, I've been watching the natural disaster that's happened in my beloved Asheville, North Carolina, all of Western North Carolina, Tennessee, where I live. And I've been thinking um, about humanity having to navigate something that's thrown at them so fast, and
Mhm.
that it's requiring people to be flexible on their feet, and the fatigue that's happening for them. So that's an extreme example. but that's been top of mind. And knowing just in my heart, those people who can move and maneuver better are going to fare better.
Mhm.
It's those who have lost my place. There's one way to do it. This is how I've always done it. And I come to this, and we may bring this up more, Lisa, but I come from this from having two kids with special needs who were very needed things in a very precise way. And I was parenting them and realized that no, they need to be able to be flexible as functioning adults in the world. And so that's what's been on top of my mind, in that flexibility is not about necessarily that you can construct your life. It's that you just have to move with what comes. I'm all over the place, as you can tell, but I've just been thinking about this
Mhm.
for a while.
Yeah. I don't think you're all over the place. I think where you are is in the moment with us
I'm in the
because
moment. Yes.
honestly, in the Bonnie world, so Bonnie stands for brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible. It's real easy to want to just get stuck, dig your feet and be like, no, no more. I'm not, nothing else. No. Right.
Yeah.
And yet every day leaders are faced with something else. And, I'm so honored in the last 3 weeks. I've been to 2 different client, um, offices, right? And I've also done a retreat with executives offsite. And I just see how much pressure and change they're going through as leaders in organizations. But Cheri, the thing you're saying that I'm also noticing in many conversations is how much change is happening behind the Zoom screen or outside of
Hmm.
as well. Whether you've got children you need to care for, parents that are aging, your own health crisis. I mean, there's so much going on that it's pretty understandable what the statistics are saying as far as just like too much. I want to just read one because I think this is going to
Please
land
do.
it for us. The
Hmm.
average employee faced 10 planned enterprise changes last year, leading to increased fatigue. And this is from Gartner. So when you think about 10 planned enterprise changes, reorgs, new technology, acquisitions, mergers, layoffs, restructuring, everything that goes on, that's a lot. And leaders have to figure out not only how to embrace the change, but then inspire their team to take action.
Hmm.
So, with where you're coming from and thinking about all that's going on, in Asheville right now, all that comes through your own lived experience of parenting your children, as well as running your business and working with female executives regularly, what advice or how can we give somebody some hope with these daunting statistics? What comes to mind, Cheri?
I'll tell you, and it actually comes from a post-it note that I've been thinking about, and I've just looked up. I've got it, and I'll show it to you in just a minute. But it's what comes to mind is we absolutely are being called to be flexible, right? Which
Mhm.
means because those 10 changes a year that these average executives, chances are they didn't get a vote,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
These are thrust upon them. They might have even been somewhat their decision. And so this is what my post-it note says. Got to do the
Gotta do
warm.
the warm up. Gotta do
And
the
let me
warm
tell
up.
you what this means to
Yeah.
me is that we wouldn't just go to the gym and or run a 2K or 10K right out the door, right? We can't, our bodies can't do that. Nor can we as human beings go from be a person who doesn't want any change to having to navigate 10 changes a year flawlessly.
Mhm.
So in there's got to be a time where we as an individual and maybe even as a team or as a company have to stretch a little, do the warm ups before
Mhm.
we head out in something big. So I would say to the leaders who are in the position of making the decisions about those 10 changes in a year, is that in your best interest? Now that's going to the top and figuring out if
Mhm.
can you really make 10 concrete, really big changes all at one time? Maybe not, but you could but if those changes are coming to you and you don't have any say in it, you're going to have to be flexible, right? So the idea of doing the warm up for me is that you don't just head straight into, I'll give you an example. You don't just head straight into a meeting about all of the things that you have to talk about. You give a little thought to it beforehand. What's going
Mhm.
to come up? How am I going to feel when that comes up? What am I going to do when I start to hyperventilate about my own anxiety about the change? You warm up to what the next thing is in front of you. Lisa, is this making any sense?
Oh,
Of
totally.
doing the warm.
It's yes. I'm gonna say yes. And I'm gonna
Okay.
say you just made me think about something. So last week, yeah, it was last week. I don't even know what day it is, Cheri. That's how much change I go through every day. Anyway, recently, I was with a group of executives working with them on their strategic planning and team building as they came together as a new team under change. And we were doing Clifton Strengths and a Ranger, right? A Ranger and Achiever are high in most of the tech teams we work with. And a
Mm-hmm.
ranger means like, yeah, I can find multiple ways to get there, right? And I can rearrange it's whether it's furniture, items in the fridge, or teams, right? You can move
Mm-hmm.
things around and it's energizing. And we had a real deep, honest conversation about what's energizing for an arranger doesn't necessarily energize the rest of us who may not have a ranger in our top 5, top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a ranger in my top.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize when I talk to clients and I'm coaching or speaking, running workshops, whatever I'm doing, that I have to be mindful that that energizes me. And I often wonder,
Mm-hmm.
are those 10 changes partially a result of people being energized by change,
Some
right?
people
And not
probably, right?
everybody is. And some people
Right.
are up to here, some people are up to here. And I just think, how might we presence, are we leaning into our
Mm.
strengths because it brings us energy and forgetting about those we're leading and
Right.
inviting ourselves, like you said, to do the warm up, intentionally think about what's the impact, who will naturally receive this change with open arms and who are the resistors. There's so much here to unpack. What
There
you
there
said really
really
got me to think about that.
Yeah, there really is a lot to unpack here, and when you think about all the different individuals who come to the table, you're right. Some are going to get jazzed
Hmm.
about something new, and somebody else is going to feel just the heaviness. Some of people are going to freeze,
Oh,
and
big
not know
time.
what to do. Be frozen.
Hmm.
And so, as leaders, though, the leaders who are in charge of these human resource, the people, may need to bring in opportunity to talk about how are people feeling about this. And I know that in the corporate world we don't always talk about feelings, but I might address it. And this is, I this funny story to the listeners. We thought we were going to talk about something else. Lisa and we thought we were
Yeah.
going to talk about intuition. So,
Yep.
but I just learned that we are now talking about flexibility. But when I was preparing in my mind to talk about intuition, one of the things I was going to say really lends itself to what we're talking about today, is that really helping people get a handle on what is it they're feeling, what's going on with
Mhm.
inside them
Yep.
as these change happens. And this is what I want folk leaders to know, is that you don't necessarily have to deal with everyone's feelings, address them, go fix them.
Mhm.
Simply asking what they are
Mhm.
and listening
Yep.
can bring a more regulated feeling for your folks, for those who aren't really pumped about change. And I
Mhm.
think, do you have any statistics, Lisa, on how many folks love change versus
Not
those who
handy,
don't?
but I
I
would I
don't
would love
either.
everyone to, drop a note in here. How much on a
Yeah.
scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love change? I don't have
Yeah.
it in front of me, but I do know for sure that, um, I've been very blessed in my career to have resisted change and learned from that, you know,
Mhm.
gone with change and learned from that and everywhere in between, and I think the thing that I know for well, do I know for sure? I'm gonna quote Oprah Winfrey. What I know for sure, change hits everybody differently depending on what else is going on. Do you have
Yeah.
trust with your manager? Do you believe in the organization? Are you informed enough to see the writing on the wall before it gets here? Are you feeling sideswiped? Are there multiple things going on outside of work that are just causing you to be what we call below the line? Right?
Mhm.
One of the things that we do with our clients regularly, and I know you know this, is tuning into yourself. Are you closed, rigid, stuck? Are you open, curious, right? Because one of the gifts I know in the work that we do is if you're in reactive mode and you're shutting down, fight, flight, freeze, your amygdala is turned on and you're just like, no, it's really hard to be curious. And if you're curious, it's really hard to stay stuck below that line. And so
Right.
when you think about the statistics on change, I feel like it might vary by the minute for some people, depending upon where
Yeah.
they are above or below that line.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't have an answer to your question, but that's what comes to mind when you ask.
I'm the same. And I want to underscore what you just said, that I have discovered for myself, and I think it's true for most people. When we're truly in curiosity, we don't. That is our number one feeling. Curiosity sort of
Mhm.
supersedes
Yep.
fear, supersedes those other emotions. So simply creating the flexibility, if you will, the ninja move of moving into curiosity about whatever's coming up, or how am I feeling about all this, or what's
Mhm.
got my panties in a wad, what's got me all in a frizzy
Yep.
tizzy, can bring about that self-regulation. And the part about flexibility, and that's why I keep equating it to going to the gym,
Mhm.
because it requires that you use the muscle. We'll never be good at change if we don't continue to change.
Yeah.
That's the muscle that has to be worked. It's and so so in some ways, I might suggest to leaders who begin to understand themselves that they're a person who's resistant to change. As your coach, I would go invite you to do change on purpose.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yep, for
Because
sure.
you've got to be able to use that muscle. I remember having a client years ago, came from the corporate world, and she was in finance, and so she was a very bottom line, not a lot of change. And I said, I would love for you to invite you to use the other part of your brain. You
Mhm.
know, your right, more creative side of your brain, because she was really comfortable in this one place. I said, you're going to have to go out and intentionally use a muscle you haven't used for a while.
Mhm.
And we have a long story where she ended up making the cutest craft. She still has it, but she was so resistant to it.
Yep.
That's what I would say to those who find yourself being resistant to change. Much like I had to do with my kids, I went out and created change on purpose for them
Mhm.
so that they would know what it feels like to be in the angst of it, to be able to voice how it felt, to be able to see they could survive it. And now I have adult children who, one of them lived through the hurricane the other day, and he was on rocky feet, but he could handle it because even though everything wasn't as if it always was, it wasn't his first rodeo.
Mm.
So being able to practice change on
Mhm.
purpose.
Which is always part of your tagline, but I want to say a heartfelt appreciation of that story, and even just acknowledging, because you and I've talked about Asheville offline a
Mhm,
lot, right? We've checking in on each other. We know what's going on, but when something of that magnitude is happening and it's your child and you're just hoping they're going to be okay, and you can sit back and go, look what we did. We equipped you for this. Like,
mhm.
he nailed it. So I just want to say congrats to you and
Well,
just acknowledge that, and
thank you.
congrats to your child. But the combination of it as a leader is like we're supposed to be equipping our teams to thrive with or without us. And so it's
Mhm,
not lost on me that your message is something that leaders can think about too. Like, who am I coddling, or who am I not sending in for that sales call? Or who am I just not asking to step into it, right? Because is that really helpful?
yeah,
What do you need to say, do, and be to be the leader that inspires your team to step into this with you, instead of you just what is it? Carrying the brunt of it by yourself.
absolutely, Lisa.
That's what you're making me think about.
I've seen that happen a lot in my work in corporate world or in public health, which are my roots, that we would allow folks to self select the things they would do, and
Mhm.
so they would just do the parts of their job that were easy, and wouldn't really work that muscle of some of those other parts. And but it we have to understand, and I keep going back to parenting, but it's the same thing as we raise and lift up and nurture and mentor someone else to get from point A to point B, is we've got to prepare them for what it looks like when we're not there.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
It's the exact same thing in some ways. And I'm not in any way trying to demean our workforce to be like children. I'm just using that as like an example.
I don't think you are sure. I think what you're
Mhm,
saying, and this is one of the things I love about you so much, which I aspire to and I try to embody, is that heart belongs at work. Care
mhm,
belongs at work. I'm not
mhm,
saying get in everybody's business, right? But if you can see someone struggling and you can help them, help them. If you
mhm,
see that someone really needs training or development or a better understanding of their own strengths. I mean, how many strengths workshops have we done where employees feel cared about? They leave feeling
mhm.
cared about. So
Yeah.
heart, I believe, belongs at work, and it needs to be integrated with your head. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I think the parenting analogies are not lost in this conversation at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will go back and say, doing the warm-ups again, go back to that gym metaphor, that that if you as a leader know that you're going to have 5 to 10 changes coming at you, or there's never a time that change isn't coming, to prepare for that intellectually, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, prepare your
Mhm.
team for not if it comes, when it comes. And one of the things I love and admire about you, Lisa, is you always ask a question before we start a podcast or do anything else. You'll always ask, well, how do you want to feel when it's over? Or you
Mm.
might even ask, how do you want to feel as we're doing this? And I think that's a perfect question to bring into your teams. It's like, okay, we're getting ready to navigate this thing that's happening that we may or may not have gotten a vote on. How do we want to feel as we move through that?
Mhm.
How do we want to feel on the other side of it? And believe it or not, most of us humans don't give that any thought. We go straight to got to go do the task, not so much how do we want to feel as we're doing it. But I think if bringing in your example that you use with us would be a really good strategy for
Oh,
leaders.
thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have to give credit. I learned that question from Danielle Laporte when I was in the middle of my burnout. I was at a bookstore and I love books. And I just walk
Hmm.
up and down the aisle, right? This book plopped out. It called me. It's called The
Love
Desire
that.
Map. And the Desire Map is all about the goals that we set are truly feelings we're chasing. And it was the
Hmm.
first time I realized, oh my gosh, that promotion, that project, that, assignment, whatever, there was a feeling I was chasing: worthiness, valuable, impact. And I really, I dove deep into that and started to really understand that if we're not in touch with our feelings, which I was disconnected from my neck down, right? I was not connected to my heart, that we could be really missing out on tremendous opportunity to innovate and be creative because we're just in do mode. And so,
Hmm.
how do you want to feel? Thank you for presencing that. And one of the questions I learned from a mentor of mine is what matters most right now.
Hmm.
And what matters most right now as a leader, a change hits your desk. Okay, what matters most right now? That I stay calm. What matters most right now? That I'm clear with my team, with what I can be. What matters most right now? I alert my family it's going to be a hectic 3 weeks so we can renegotiate softball or date night, right? What matters most right now? I need to make sure I drink more water, sleep, right? I block time for thinking. And I find this what matters most right now and how do you want to feel so powerful. When you said
Hmm.
that, I was like, oh, I want to add this one too,
Yeah,
because
that's a good
with
question.
change, you think about yourself. How do you equip yourself? And then really quick, you got to figure out how do you move the needle, steer the
Mhm.
ship, you know?
Steer the ship,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I love that the answers are usually in the power of the question, and
Mhm.
it's a simple question.
Yeah.
What's the next right step? What's the next right thing I need to do?
Yeah. One of my faves from you is how can we make it easier? How might this be easy? I
How
love that
might this
question.
be easy? How
Yeah,
might
I
this
work with Rochelle Neiman a lot too, and she's always like, "How might this be easy?" I'm like, "Oh my
yeah.
gosh, you and Cheri
How
Honeycutt with these easy questions. How might
yeah,
it be
fun
easy?
and easy is what and I
Fun
want it
and
to be
easy,
fun too. Fun and
right?"
easy.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
got that from a coach years ago that I had hired. So
Yeah.
yeah, simpleness of the question. But I will say for leaders to, especially when change happens, some folks are wired to want to know how to have all the answers and to
Mhm.
realize no, you're on the front end of a change. You don't really even know what's coming
Yep.
up, but to
Yep.
hold the questions. And then I'll also say that there's a place for um, grace, some
Oh, it's my word of the
self-compassion.
year this year, grace.
Oh,
Yes,
is it?
please. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, because change is messy, change is um, non, it's can be all over the place. It can
Mhm.
be days you're navigating it well, the next day you're ready to stick a fork in somebody's head.
Yep.
That's how it is. But to have some self-compassion and grace for the emotions that naturally come up as you navigate these things.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the things I say all the time in my work with my clients is that you will not accidentally have the life you want. You will not accidentally have the team you want. You will not accidentally have the business you want. You have to do it because you live intentionally. And that is really setting the framework of what you want it to look like on the front end, even before boots are on the ground. You know,
Mhm.
it gets designed in our minds and hearts. And that even if it does that make sense? I see you kind of looking into the air. But
Oh, I'm
yeah.
processing so fast what you're saying.
Okay,
Oh yeah,
good,
I'm
good,
in.
good.
I got like 6 stories coming at me with what you're
Okay,
saying.
good.
Oh yeah.
Share, share,
Yeah.
share.
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, for people who know me, and if you're watching the video, when I look up, I'm processing deeply and things are rapid happening for me. So if I ever, I always tell my clients when I'm in a meeting, like if I'm looking up, it's good sign. Things are,
Okay,
wheels are
good, good,
turning.
good, good.
I should probably tell my guest this on my podcast. But
That's okay.
what
It's
I
all
was thinking about when you how do I say what this is? Because it's processing real time. So, one of the things that I believe from an intentionality standpoint is that when you're in tech, it's always on, never good enough, where we place you tomorrow. There's no time to think. You're in high execution. We see this with our data, we see this real time with our clients. And intentionality requires slowing down to speed up, always. And people
always.
don't like to hear that. And people don't, I don't want to hear that. I'm like, I'm busy, right? But yet, when I create the space for reflection and thinking, like we do in every client engagement, right? I love watching these leaders. I give them 5 minutes to write down, when have you seen your team at its best and what becomes possible when you lean into strengths? 2 questions. Give them 5 minutes and they come out like, oh, right? Like, this is what's possible. This is why we're awesome. Or, you get the best of me when. Answer these questions, right? Um, Here's what I love about myself. Here's what I think frustrates my teammates. And here's what I wish I had you had. These types of reflections go exponentially faster to building trust. Then you can figure out what matters most right now. And because I'm not suggesting you take a whole 3 days off to go think, I'm suggesting change your meetings from 60 minutes to 50. Give yourself 10. Start
Yeah,
one meeting with a reflection just to get everybody present, right? These are the things that create a flexible environment because you're present. Like flexibility is rooted in presence.
absolutely. And would you invest $5 if you were promised 1,000 back?
Oh my, hello. Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking, a potent 5 minutes
Hmm.
is a really the kind of when we're talking about intentionality. It's not like you said, a 3-day retreat just to sit and think. It's not, taking a week
Yeah.
off. It's literally powerful and as potent as 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
To
Yeah.
ask those questions and be fully present with them,
Hmm.
um, is probably the best tip of this whole podcast for the
Ah,
leaders
well,
who are
we're
listening.
we're building it together, Cheri.
I
Okay.
know it's fantastic.
So, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and this I'm going to shift just slightly here. So,
Okay.
you've actually been a wonderful gift in my community outside of my corporate world, which is my advocacy work that I do to raise awareness about lipedema and chronic illness in the workplace, fat bias in the workplace, and all that comes with hidden disabilities.
Mhm.
And I think that one of the things that's happening is that misaligned schedules and miscommunication have led to increased burnout and job seeking amongst employees, right? So when
Mhm.
we talk about flexibility, with what you've seen in your own community and public health, working with us as far as raising awareness about lipedema and also doing corporate work, where do you see flexibility um, playing and aligning leadership efforts to meet the needs of this evolving workforce? Like, what do you think is really critical to just presence with whatever lens you want around hidden disabilities, chronic illness, special needs children, aging parents? Because I think flexibility is a part of this that if we don't double click on, we're not doing a good service to the audience. It's a missed service. It's a missed opportunity. And since we have this lived experience, I'd love to give you a chance to process my question. How
Yeah.
might flexibility help leaders better meet the needs of the changing workforce or the compounding pressures outside of work?
Well, they won't break. It's the flexibility. The goal is that we don't let anything take us out, right? The
Mhm.
flexibility allows us to feel the thing that happens to us or is given to us or the opportunity and not break from that. But but I would say not really sure how to answer this question really well. Um, I'm going blank just a little bit, Lisa. I'm really sorry.
No, let's go together because I think
Yeah, let's go
I
together.
know it's in there because you've seen it. What I'm trying to suggest is that there's an opportunity for leaders to really think about their return to work mandates. What is hybrid work? And there's a chance for employees to say to their employer, "Hey, this is going on behind the scenes, and I need this type of flexibility in this role."
Yeah.
Right? Or whether they're required to travel or not for a certain event. Kids get sick all the time. You got to stay home. So where I'm trying to go with this lens with this topic is sometimes I think leaders just get sick of change and they're like, nope, everybody 9 to 5, no exceptions.
Right.
right?
Right. And
And what I'm
yeah,
trying to say, and in the office, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And what I'm trying to invite in this final thought here, because of the work that you do with HIV awareness, because of the work you do with lipedema awareness, and because that you've parented and have highly successful special needs children, all of that's in the workplace.
yeah.
And if you could just talk to the leader for a minute to think about
Oh, yeah.
5% more flexibility, 2% more flexibility, what would that mean, or how might that create space to mitigate change fatigue and just overwhelm and
Oh my,
increase engagement?
if we can remember that folks have, and I folks have so much more on their plate than just their work. And I literally looked at it like a plate of food, okay? And they have aging parent or children or their own disabilities or their own things they have to work around. If we can allow and maybe even listen to what is their wish list and
Mhm.
give them a little bit of that. What you want is a happier, and again, this is going to sound so hokey and so simplistic, but a happier employee. But let me tell you, there are so many statistics on the happier our employees are. And what I mean by happy is folks are being able to show up to this job that they said yes to in a way that feels good and a way that feels like they can that they're responsible for it,
Mhm.
then they're going to reap the benefits. So being able to notice your own inflexibility as a leader and go, yeah, it might be simple on paper, but you're going to lose some phenomenal people over time, and you may lose them where they'll still come to work, but they won't be working as much for you.
Yeah.
You know
The
what I
the lower
mean?
engagement rates will show that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for following my popcorn trail of my thought, and for asking for clarity and not just trying to wing a question, because I think we're modeling what it's like right now to be in difficult conversations and looking for answers inside the wisdom of a group,
Well, kind of went
right?
blank, and I just
I
had to
love
have
it.
some grace for myself from it. It's like
No, I
I'm not
love it.
exactly sure where my brain's
Yeah,
going.
well,
Yeah.
and because we don't prep for this stuff, we just go for it. So,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that perspective. I think it's helpful, and we've dropped a lot of nuggets between questions we can ask, intentionally spending time.
Mhm.
What'd you say? Do the warm up,
The warm up.
and
Mhm.
really thinking about just remembering what you're up against as a leader, what's coming at you, and then what's going on behind the screen. Um, Sometimes music helps people get unstuck, and I'd love
Mhm.
to ask you for a song that we might leave our
Mm.
listeners with around something if they're just feeling like, "Ah, I no more
Yeah.
change. I'm not doing it anymore. I don't feel flexible. I'm feeling very rigid. Do it
Mhm.
my way and just be quiet." What song comes to mind that might help someone get unstuck or presence with themselves?
Well, I'm gonna go with the very first one that popped in my head, and it's called Strength, Courage, and Wisdom by
Um,
India Ari from about 20 years ago.
yeah.
I mean, a long time ago. And I just asked, my intuition to tell me what song. I even have a tattoo on my ankle, my only one from 20 years ago, that's what it symbolizes for me. And it's a picture like a root vegetable where there's the foliage outside of the
Mhm.
ground and then what's underneath the ground. And so I would leave the leaders with realizing that you have to balance both of those,
Mm.
that your output and your input have to be balanced, and that
Mhm.
the song speaks to strength, courage, and wisdom. It's inside of you all along. So when I'm feeling really um, fragmented, that's a song I go to.
I love that song. So this song is in my heart for many, many reasons. Yes,
Mm.
thank you for that. And I'd sing it, but we don't want the listener to go away. But yes, strength, courage, and
And
wisdom, right?
wisdom,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what we have on the screen right now, for those of you that are watching, Sherry's got some free resources. We're going to drop it in the show notes as well. Sherry, anything you want to say about people getting in touch with you, what you're offering
Mm.
here, how we might just spotlight the beauty, which is all the things Cheri Honeycutt puts into this world?
Well, this website that's the quickest way to my website, which is if you want to connect with me in any way. I send out a newsletter periodically. I have some free resources, a podcast of my own, and I'm also just up for a chat.
Yes, she is. Cheri
I
Honeycutt is
am
up for a
so
chat.
up for a
So
chat.
yeah, sherryhoneycutt.com/free-resources. We'll drop that in the notes. Last parting advice, any words of wisdom? If you were, wrapping up a coaching call with a leader who's in change fatigue, overwhelmed with many things coming at him, what one
Mm,
question, one thought, one idea would you like to leave our listener with today?
breathe,
Breathe.
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 that really, when we get all tight and clenchy and it's just, if we can truly breathe. And I used to roll my eyes when folks would tell me that, but it's the absolute truth, and it's how I calm down my children. It's how I calm myself down. 3 deep breaths gets us in a different frame of mind, and then we can ask some of those delicious questions we talked about today.
I love it.
Mhm.
So everyone, breathe. The invitation to breathe. I also
Mhm.
want to invite you to share this episode with your team. Listen to it on your drive home with your family. Like, there's so much here that could benefit you and those that you lead and love. I would love to invite you to share this. Please like, subscribe, comment. Cheri, thank you for being here with us
It
live.
was a
Thank you for
delight.
bringing your heart, your lived experience, and your passions, and all of the fun and wisdom that you drop here today. For those of you with us live, thank you. And for those of you on the replay, we can't wait to help you reboot your leadership drive today and always at CTRL+ALT+DELETE with Lisa Duerre. Thanks, everyone. That's a wrap, folks. Whether you're here with us live for the reboot or caught the replay to upgrade your leadership drive, I want to say a big thank you for being a part of this experience. Your input and energy are what keep us going strong. But hold on tight. This isn't where the journey ends. Let's keep the momentum going by sharing your thoughts in the comments, spreading the word on social media, or dropping me a message. I'm all ears and ready to connect. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button or ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode. If today sparked something for you, your likes and comments mean the world. They help us reach more leaders like yourself and prevent burnout. Together, we're not just leaders, we're firm leaders, upgrading our drive and rebooting our leadership game one episode at a time. Oh, and one more thing. If you're interested in bringing this valuable discussion to your teams or organization, RLD Group is here to lend a hand. Reach out via LinkedIn or email hello@rldgroupllc.com. We'd love to chat. Until next time, this is Lisa Duerre signing off with a virtual high five and or a virtual fist bump, whatever you choose. Make it a great day, everyone.